For those of you that don't know, this is Jeremy Wampler. He's my brother-in-law. Sorry, Dr. Jeremy Wampler. He's my brother-in-law. He's a physical therapist in the area out in Ooltewah, based over there. And he mainly is specializing in the world of golf. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Jeremy, when was the very first time you swung a golf club? Do you remember that?
I do remember, actually.
Really?
Yeah, it was 2005.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I am. So I called my brother up, and I've never been into golf. I thought it was ridiculous.
Uh-huh.
It was like it's not a real sport. And so my brother told me he was at high school, Georgia Cumberland Academy (GCA), and he was hitting balls back there and trying to shoot for targets. And for some reason I was like, oh, I should try this.
Where at, like on the airfield or something?
I have no clue. He said there was a field, and he was trying to hit into a bucket or something.
I'm gonna push this
Yeah.
just a little closer for you.
Is it okay if I just sit?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that?
you can
Okay.
you can move it around.
Perfect. So he was hitting balls, and my brother had never been into golf either, and so I thought I should try. And I went out there, and I was at a Upper Columbia Academy High School at the time, and I tried to swing. I was terrible, but because it was so hard, I got interested in it first, and so yeah, it was. I guess that would have been like junior year in college. Somewhere
Okay.
there. Yeah. So I didn't get into it for a while.
What were you doing your undergrad in at the time?
It was so at the time I was going to do personal training, exercise physiology.
Okay.
That was my plan. And then that year I went to that high school, and I was a dean for the year, and I decided I should do physical therapy. Just after thinking about it a little bit more, I thought maybe it'd be a little better job market to get into it.
That makes sense. So you started swinging out there just kind of on the campus,
Hmm.
and then that was when it clicked.
I don't know if it clicked.
Okay.
Yeah, it was terrible. I would go out in the field. There was these big fields out there, these big like wheat fields, and I would just hit these big slices if I even made contact. And so then when I came back to college, I started going out to the course all the time and trying to practice and trying to play. And it was still really bad, but I got a lot better within the next year. Got completely hooked on it.
Ever since I've started playing golf, I think about how lucky those kids are that play golf their whole life growing up.
Completely.
Like, because they just have such an unfair advantage. Like, for me, it's way off to the side. And then as soon as I fix that, then all of a sudden it's going to the other way. And
I think about my son, my oldest son, who's 5 and already playing in junior league. Even if he doesn't play much at all, he'll probably be better than I am just because he started so young.
yeah, the hand-eye coordination, whatever it is,
Yep.
making contact.
That's right. You just get used to it, I think. And if I know you played soccer. If you take soccer, you could quit playing for years and still come back and be decent at soccer. And just learning those skills so early is such a good thing.
Definitely. So from then, when you first got into it, you go and get your degree. And were you playing a lot while you were in school, or?
I actually didn't play too much in school. I was really focused on school. So we would play every once in a while. Some of the buddies in physical therapy class, we'd jump out and play places. But mainly through that time period, I barely played. So what got me back into it was I started working out in the field or out in a clinic there, and my friend moved into this neighborhood that was walking distance from a course. And so he started talking about it. He was under the impression that he could just walk out to that course, and they kind of let him play for free because he lived so close. And so somehow I got the impression I was going to be able to play for free as well. And so I got really excited about playing for free, and I started playing again a little bit, and then it hooks you in sometimes. So then I started playing a lot, and
Was this out in California?
this is in California. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So then I kind of re-caught the bug, I guess.
When you and I first started to become friends, you weren't really in it as a career. You were doing other things, just working as a physical
Yeah.
therapist, right?
I was always interested in athletes and the sports and the workout fitness side of things, but I wasn't necessarily trying to specialize just in golf. But I was aware of what Titles had done, and Titles had come up with these certification courses that you could go through that would help you specialize in golf. So if you're a fitness or a medical professional or a teacher, you could go through and take courses from Titleist. And so I ended up ended up doing that. I decided to do some work with my friend who owns the clinic we're at, and I ended up taking the certification course, and then my obsessive personality took over and I started taking multiple certification courses and started studying it. I started doing workshops at courses in different places, and then it's just kind of progressively grown from there a little bit organically, I would say. I'm the only I'm the only one that I'm aware of that's really completely zoomed in. That's their main thing in this local area. There's a lot of people around America, around the world that are doing it. And so because of that, I've had some opportunities to see quite a bit of people and progress and get some good players in. And so it's kind of spiraled, it's progressed.
Were the Titleist courses, that was, what is that called? Is that Titleist?
So TPI, so
TPI.
Titleist Performance Institute.
Okay.
And so they have a bunch of different certification courses you can go through that either medical, fitness, power, golf, things like that.
And that's like continuing education for a professional, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So
It's-
that's kind of where you got into it. You're like, oh, this is
Mhm.
my CE credits that I need. So I'm just gonna, this looks interesting.
Yeah, although I don't actually get CE credits for them, which would be nice,
Oh,
but
nice.
that I'm aware of. But
Uh-huh.
I did just do them, spend a lot of money on it.
Yeah.
My wife was excited with all the money I spent.
Yeah, I'm
So
sure.
yeah,
I'm sure Courtney was like, babe, just send it.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
it was good. She was supportive for sure.
Okay, so tell me about when swing speed became a thing for you. Because I remember pretty much the whole time I've known you, golf has been a topic. But then there was like a solid year long period where every time I saw you, the first thing you told me about was your swing speed and the swing speed drills you were doing. And
Yeah.
it was like, I could tell that this is all that you were thinking about for the most part. I mean, there's probably other
That's a
things.
that's a good question. So I when did it become a thing? I guess when I first started, I was always, and I mean, even before I started really getting into the golf specific, like I'm going to work on swing speed. I was interested in fitness for the sake of improving power and performance in golf. But I started thinking about it more and studying it more. And, even Bryson DeChambeau, professional golfer, he went through this swing speed thing. And I was listening to what he did. It kind of got me interested to see, I was already in the fitness stuff. It got me interested to see what could I do with myself. That was a big point of it, a part of it. And I think that I got hooked on it, and I was already working with people on the fitness stuff, the body stuff, mobility things. But then I just went completely rabbit trailed and obsessive on myself. And then I started working with other people on speed. And so it's been a few years now that's been the obsession. And because it makes so much, it's one of the quickest things for many people. It's one of the quickest things you can do to improve your game. It takes a long time to get good at golf, but if you can hit a little further off the tee and then you're less club in and then you're hitting those clubs a little close or easier to get in from there, it can boost people's scores pretty quick.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
got obsessive about it, I guess.
The swing speed side of things,
Mm-hmm.
how does swing speed translate to distance? Or does it necessarily?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say it does translate to distance for many people. For most people, assuming you have a baseline ability to hit the ball and make contact. So if someone's a beginner that's never hit the ball, when they hit it, they slice it. when like we won't name names in the room here, but if you slice it and the ball spins and it doesn't go anywhere, then tacking on more speed to that's not going to help. But if someone can already hit it and they're fairly accurate enough to make good contact with the ball and not spin it like crazy. When I say spin it like crazy, I mean making the ball curve excessively where it goes out of play or doesn't go very far. Very far. Assuming they have that, most people could benefit from working on speed training. And if you get to the point where you can swing a club faster, so let's say, I always tell people, imagine you were a sprinter and you wanted to sprint a 40-yard dash. And so you trained really hard to run really fast at that 40-yard dash. So you're working hard, you're doing all those exercises, sprint practice. and you decide to race someone else on that 40-yard dash down the road after training, you may be able to jog and you'd still be that person almost because you've trained so much if you're that much faster. So with swinging, when you practice training fast, if you practice swinging fast, it doesn't mean you have to swing really hard on course. It's just naturally your easy swings will creep up. Now, some people will want to swing faster on course, and that's fine. But the idea is you're raising your floor almost where you just kind of creep up over time. And so that's one of the reasons many people can benefit from it is because just becoming more of an athlete, you're naturally, it's easier speed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you're swinging, 120 miles an hour in practice, then you dial it back, what your previous fastest speed would be is slowly going to come up over time.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's right.
So when you were doing speed training, like when you started, what kind of speeds were you swinging the club at?
So when I first started tracking speed, I would say I seemed to be swinging around 103 to 105 miles an hour, somewhere in there, club speed. And I do remember after doing some training, I got up to 111 miles an hour at one point for one swing out on a course. And I had a radar and I was swinging as hard as I could. And so I went up to 111 miles an hour when I first started. And then the most I've been up to is 128 miles an hour after training it, which is quite a big jump progressing to that point. And it doesn't mean I play at those speeds, but that was kind of the progression. So,
And what did you notice being the biggest difference in the way that you played from training the swing speed?
it just feels like easier golf because I increased my driver distance a ton. And so either you could take driver if it was open and then you maybe just short little wedges in, easy clubs to hit in, or it kind of gives you the option to not take driver at times because all your clubs go up. So now I may be able to hit a hybrid to the point where I used to be able to hit my driver. So at this point, I hit my hybrid further than what my driver used to be. And so now the hybrid spins a little bit more. And so when it spins more, it can be a little more accurate. So you can have that spinny longer shot that keeps you in fairway, or you can have the ones where it's super open. You just
Rip it.
rip it. That's right.
Yeah. Sorry to put words in your mouth
No, it's
there.
perfect.
But, with clients, what kind of progressions have you been able to help your clients get?
So one of my clients, probably one of my favorite stories, is a guy that was swinging about 105 miles an hour, somewhere there, 103 to 105 as well. And I remember he was really, really excited when he went to 110 miles an hour. So he got up to 110 miles an hour, and that was a huge jump. But one time after training quite a bit, he went up to 135 miles an hour. Just to kind of put it in perspective, tour average right now is about 115 miles an hour. So he was sitting quite a bit below that, and now he's sitting above that tour average. And now this is a guy that's trying to compete professionally. So for him, it makes a huge difference because where he was one of the shorter guys and he's having to rely on his short game, hitting it out there not that far and then rely on his short game to score. Now he's one of the longer guys and now he's able to score. And so he's playing a lot better.
Does he feel like it's made a pretty big difference for him on the court?
Yeah.
The court.
The court too, yeah.
The golf court. Yeah.
Yeah, he does for sure. And then so he's been a good one. I had one of my high school players, a girl. She's kicked up from 82 miles an hour to 98 miles an hour. So LPGA average is about 96 miles an hour right now. So for her, she kicked up from quite a bit below LPGA, the ladies professional, to just hovering right above it.
And she's still young, right?
As she's a senior in high school, she's going to go play college golf next year. So,
wow.
For her, all of a sudden, she's one of the longest players. And when you're competing, golf, any advantage you can have is a big deal for sure. Distance is a huge advantage.
We've gone over a lot of the swing speed stuff. Now
Yeah.
I want to talk about the app and kind of the things that you're looking at now.
Yeah.
because this has
You want to get
been
into nerdy stuff?
yeah, I mean, okay, so to give you guys reference, like a year ago, Jeremy stopped talking about swing speed and he
Mm.
started talking about the app that he's developing. And so this is this is actually super interesting stuff. I mean, Jeremy probably knows more about swing speed and power and all these data markers than I mean, like than most people in the world. Like, who do you think knows more about this stuff and is more into this and has more data points that they've collected themselves than
Uh,
you at this point?
I don't know. I'm sure there's plenty of people that know more than me and have.
He's lying.
I mean, there's so many people that have done such great research on this topic. Titleist, for example, they've created a huge data set of tour players that they work with. But my view is always I want to research things myself, and so I want to have my own data set that I can run correlations and different things. And you have to hear about it being my brother-in-law a lot. Hear about all the details of that, which is fun. So, what do you want to know? You want to know specifics
Well,
or?
yeah, just walk me through like this app. Like initially, what was the thought process with the app?
So initially, the thought process was, I don't know how to make an app. I don't even know if I can make an app. And then, what if I use AI to kind of start helping me code things because I'm not a coder. And so I started trying to build the app. And once you realize you could use AI and start writing code and doing that, then my brain went wild. Like, what could I do with this? So it started as just, it's been all over the place. But really, what I wanted to do was a tool to put in data about golfers, like how fast they're swinging, what their vertical jump or what their strength is or what their mobility is or these kind of things, and then start to track patterns of what they're doing. So for example, I track 3D data on people where it'll measure how much turn they have or measure how much their chest is moving sideways or forwards and backwards or how much they're moving back and forth. And so and how fast their hands are moving. And then I use force plates, which measures how much you're pushing off the ground, how much you're pushing sideways and up and down. And so you take this huge data set and you can plug it into the app and it'll run correlations. And as I go, you can start to see correlations between what some of these people are doing to create speed. So correlations on club speed versus these different things like their vertical jump or how their body's moving. And
Like
so
the biomechanics of the body and the swing versus the club.
yes, exactly. But the app does, I've created it to be able to run correlations in all sorts of things. So I may say, what's a correlation between how much someone is turning in their swing, like how much their chest is turning. So let's say their flexibility versus their club speed. Or I may say, what's the correlation between how much your chest is turning away from the target versus towards the target in a downswing? All sorts of things. So at this point, it's the sky's the limit on creativity within it, and I'm still working on the app, but I'm trying to create it as a way to analyze data and come up with patterns, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a
It's
lot of sense.
exciting.
Well, no, it is interesting. So I guess maybe people should know when you bring a new golfer in,
Mm.
what kinds of things are you measuring when they come in?
So I do a few things with them. I'm kind of break it down into categories. So we will look at their swing and we'll measure it in 3D. So we'll look at the 3D movements of their swing, and it'll tell us how much their chest is turning, how much they're moving their pelvis side to side, how much they're moving up and down, and it measures these data points. So I could look at does someone have a limited turn, and then we could actually have data on that. So maybe they move a certain amount, and then I could, if I wanted to work with someone to improve that, we'd have a number on it. So that's one thing is 3D, and then I'll measure them on force plates, and force plates measures how much they're pushing off the ground. So it'll measure how much you're pushing up and down. It'll measure how much you're pushing side to side and how much you're pushing front to back. And it'll measure associated torques with that. So how much they're creating angular momentum or momentum that spins them and moves them in different positions. So, and then we measure mobility. So I'll measure the flexibility head to toe. I measure strength throughout their body. And then I measure power being the kind of the combination of strength and speed. So I may have them do a jump, for example, see how high they can jump or how far can they throw a medicine ball, a chest pass, or setting up and throwing it. And when you get all this data, you can figure out, does someone need to just stretch to improve these things? Does someone need to, maybe their flexibility is great, but they need to work on just strength. Maybe they don't have the strength, or maybe their flexibility and strength is great, but they can't turn strength into power. So it'd be like someone that could lift a weight, really heavy weight, and they were strong, but they couldn't move anything fast. So you're trying to decide, is someone, and in golf, you don't have much time to develop speed in your swing. It's a short movement. So you're trying to figure out what's the best way to make this golfer better. Or maybe they're not using the ground well. And so you look at it and they're not really pushing with the ground. And then you have to decide, do I need to have them work with myself and a swing coach, to work on improving the ground? So we're trying to really just get this ultimate picture of what does this person need for the next step to improve their game, and not just speed, but also just the efficiency of their game and them as an athlete.
So I guess when you're doing the 3D data capture, you might be able to see, okay, it looks like they have a limitation in flexibility here, and maybe they're not rotating and applying the force the way that they need to on the force plates on the ground. And so you can tell by those things, all right, maybe by putting them on this mobility routine, will unlock X degrees of freedom, which could really help them
Yeah.
unlock some more speed.
If you think about, imagine you were telling someone you wanted them to throw a punch and hit a wall as hard as they could, and you had them start Bruce Lee style, like an inch away from the wall. So they could build up some speed and punch the wall, but it would probably be easier for them to build up speed if they started a couple feet away. Or maybe even they start 5 feet away and they run into it. So people produce speed in golf different ways. One of the ways to increase speed in golf is through what's called impulse, which is essentially how much force you apply over time. So that punch that's further away allows them to build up that force. So if someone could turn more, if they had more turns, so let's say that I'm trying to wind up and I make a big turn in my swing. So I'm turning into my backswing. Let's say that I hit a roadblock and my spine is stiff. So I turn 30 degrees. Now that person, they could still develop speed, but they don't have that ramp up time. They're like the person that was punching from an inch away. So let's say I measure them and I look at them on 3D and I can see their turn is limited. And then I measure their mobility in their spine and I can see that's also limited. So maybe that's a person that if you improve their ability for their spine to turn, then they could turn further in their swing. And now they have more time to generate speed. So that would be one example of you say, okay, this is the checkpoints to get this, and that's one way to get speed.
So you can really custom tailor it to exactly what the client needs based on maybe their limitations in their body. How would you deal with somebody that perhaps has like a fused spine or something like that? Because they might not be able to ever really turn that way, right?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So you have to look at obviously where it was fused, for example, because if it was fused in the lower part of your spine, then you still have moving parts above it. But let's just make up something. It doesn't usually happen this way, but let's just say it was fused all the way through the spine. That'd be a lot.
Just a straight
just
back.
a straight fuse.
Yeah.
Since
I need that so that I sit up straight.
You need both.
Do you need water or something?
No, I think I'm okay.
Okay.
I just got to remember I'm on a podcast. I got to sit up tall in case someone's watching the video. Maybe my wife, the only one watching the video.
Yeah, probably same.
Yeah.
She probably won't watch this.
Yeah, mine won't either. But let's say they did that. So then you have to say, okay, what about above and below those joints? So if the spine's not moving, let's just say we start to go below the spine and we say the hips, right? So you could get movement through the spine, but the spine doesn't move. So now you try to get movement from the joint below, the hips. And if the hips don't move, now you're trying to get motion below the hips. But
So like the knees moving.
yeah, yeah. Well, and that's part of the problem, right? Because if you don't have motion in these moving areas that are supposed to move, let's say the spine doesn't move and the hip doesn't move well, so the knee tries to move, but the knee may not be made to rotate as well. So the knee starts to get stressed, and then people can get some pain in the knee. And so that becomes the pain part of it. But depending on what someone's there for, so if someone is there for pain or longevity, then you may say, then you have to figure those things out and decide, what do they need to do to get out of this? Do I need to improve these mobility centers? If someone's there for power, you either have options, right? You either have to improve mobility, or you have to understand this is where they're at, and now I need to adjust their stance or their position, or just make them fast with that 1 inch punch, right? Where
Yeah.
you don't give them mobility, depending on if it's fused or what the structure is.
So that'd be like working out for fast twitch versus slow twitch, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you could say this person doesn't have much mobility, so they need to be able to move really, really fast within that range that they have.
Have you seen that dude? He's all over my YouTube shorts for some reason, but he's like this Asian guy that's got like the smoothest swing. Have you seen that guy?
I think so. I think I know what you're talking about. Just like almost like slow motion,
Dude,
like
yeah, but he hits it so
just the
far.
perfect little shots. Yeah.
And well, it looks like it's going ridiculously far. He's always hitting like off into the night at like a
Yes.
top
Yeah.
golf
I've
looking
seen
place.
it.
Dude, that guy,
It's amazing.
it makes me want to golf, but then every time I go try, I get frustrated and just start swinging really hard. And I'm like, oh, wait, slow down. And then I get all lined up and just hit it as hard as I can. It's the most frustrating thing.
Makes me not want to golf when I observe my swing on camera. I watch
Yeah.
people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. For a second, I was like, I should start a YouTube channel where I film myself golfing and like have the golf journey. I shot 2 videos and then I was editing one back and I was like, forget this. I'm not putting this anywhere on the internet
Yeah.
for anyone to see. So,
Golf's hard.
yeah,
It's hard.
it's stored on a hard drive in a secret location. But I love what you're doing and what you're looking at here. Would you say that the majority of what you're trying to do is swing speed and distance and power?
Not necessarily. I think that is a part of what comes with a lot of the things that I'm doing for people, but I think it's more about trying to figure out how to move efficiently, stay out of pain, play for a long time, protect our body, and make us more powerful as athletes. But that all transfers to speed in golf. But if I just put it as just speed, that would also be false in many ways, because not everyone just wants to hit the ball further. They may want to be able to hit without pain, or they maybe want to play for a long time, or just not feel stiff. So it depends on the person. I do work with a lot of people on speed, but it varies quite a bit.
Gotcha. So,
Mhm.
yeah, if somebody's just looking for longevity in the game, then the approach is totally different for them.
Yeah. Although, because they go hand in hand so much, in the sense that if someone is looking to play longer, or they're looking to get out of pain, you're still going to look at things like improving their ability to move, making them stronger. And so, and then in turn, when they're moving better and stronger, the speed tends to creep up too.
Yeah. How often with clients do you do those measurement days where you're looking at like, the power, the force plates, the 3D motion capture, all that?
So it depends a little bit. With when I first do an evaluation with someone, when they first come to see me, we spend an hour and a half or 2 hours or so just really getting really nerdy and really just trying to decide and make sure I know every little piece of what I need to know about that golfer. From there, it depends what they're seeing me for. So if someone's doing speed work, I may be checking 3D or force plates on. I may check it every session, or I may check it every few, or I may check it once a month, depending on if we're trying to keep track of what they're doing, or if we're using that as a tool to make sure we're being efficient. So, for example, maybe we're trying to help them use the ground better. So then we're going to check force plates consistently. Or maybe we're trying to see about how their movement is in the swing, then we check 3D. But sometimes it's more you work on things for a month or 6 weeks or so, and then you recheck metrics like power metrics and mobility. I tend to check every time just to track that over time.
And what are you looking at in the mobility thing? Like you're having them stretch and things like that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it's I'm checking throughout their whole body, their spine, their hips, their shoulders, their wrists, their ankles, their knees, all of it, and checking how they move. And then I find the key areas where they don't move well. So maybe it's the spine and the hips, and then a lot of times I'll stretch them out, and then I'll give them exercise to work on at home, and they work on them at home. And then we come back and we check, did it actually help? Right.
Yeah.
And if it helped, that's great. We continue. And if it didn't help, we try to prescribe something else that helps.
What do you think being a PT does to like set you apart? Because people could go to a swing coach, or I mean, there's like dozens of swing coaches all over the place. But what does being a PT help you see that perhaps a swing coach or somebody that's not as specialized um, would probably miss?
I don't know if it really depends on the coach, but I don't know if necessarily. I think to answer your question about a PT specifically is that if you take a coach, and we should first claim or understand I'm not a coach. I don't do swing coach. I don't teach people how to swing. Uh, they go to their swing coach, and their swing coach usually collaborates with me, and we work together. So, so a swing coach, in fact, may send me the client, and I try to figure out what they're doing in their swing. So, for example, I had a golfer come in the other day that competes at a high level, and we got online with his coach, and he's having certain things that he's doing in his swing, and the coach is having some trouble getting him out of these positions, and the cues that they're using to help them with the swing, it's having a little trouble sticking. So then they wanted him to come to me to figure out, is there a restriction in the body that can make it hard to get in the position I want them to get in? So maybe someone, for example, is moving their spine in a way that they don't like. Maybe they're standing up too much in their swing or losing the posture in their swing. And so maybe the coach is giving them cues like, hey, I want you to do this. I want you to stay in your posture. I want you to do this or this. But maybe their body can't do it,
Mm,
physically able. So I guess where I come in is, one, understanding the swing enough to be able to pick those things myself, and two, collaborating with the coach on it. But then really I understand enough about the swing and enough about the body where I can tell the coach this is what they could or couldn't do in their swing. This is what their body's capable of. And either we need to improve the body's capabilities to get you to the point where you could do this, or we need to change how they're making their swing.
mm-hmm.
So and it's a collaborative effort.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Where would you like this to go? What do you think the long term, what's the next 3, 4, 5 years hold for you?
So I think that growing in the sense of getting more and more golfers coming in is just a big part of it, right? If we get lucky enough to get overloaded with too many golfers, right? It'd be a great problem to have. If you have too many golfers. From a business side of things, it would be cool to expand, have a bigger place, maybe bring in more people to the team to work with golfers and help train them. And long term, I'd love to be treating golfers, mentoring other people that are doing what I am doing. And, if I'm daydreaming about it, I love to travel around and do some things with golfers maybe I go out on a tour event and do some things, or maybe I get to travel around some and collaborate with other people in the business. I love the nerdy research stuff. So, and I've already had some blessings on being able to start having some of those conversations. But yeah, it would be still fun, and just more of it, I guess, and learning more and more as I go.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. What has been the most surprising thing to you as you've learned more and more about power and swing speed and distance? Like, is there anything that stands out as being like, I did not expect that to be true?
It's amazing how much little things can improve exponentially. So, for example, you could work with someone to improve their speed and spend months and months or a year or multiple years, and if you gain 10 miles an hour on your swing speed, that'd be huge. It'd be a huge difference in your game, but it's hard to gain 10 miles an hour. I've had people do those kind of things, but it takes a lot of work. But then I've also had people come in, multiple people, where we test them on the force plates, and it measures how they're using the ground, and you can tell that they're not using the ground effectively, and giving them a little cue, a little feel to how to use the ground better. I've had people kick up 10 miles an hour within those feels. And so sometimes you can do some really quick things that jump your speed exponentially. So the fun part about testing people is I get to figure out collaborating with the coach and myself, and we get to figure out what's the fastest way from point A to point B. And maybe they're lucky, maybe in the camp that they just have to learn to do something basic and it can kick up. But really the only way you know is to test those kind of things and really get a sense of what they can do. But it's just surprising, I guess, to see some of the big changes that people make so quick at times.
Tell me about the force plates, because that was a more recent acquisition, correct?
Yeah, the force plates has been such a cool thing. If you wanted someone to, I always tell people, imagine you wanted someone to throw a ball, and imagine a person, they had the ball in their hands and they squat down and then they kind of jump and throw the ball, right? So when you push into the ground exerts force back. So if I push 100 pounds into the ground pushes 100 pounds back, right? So the harder you push into the ground is pushing back, right? Just the physics of how that works. So, and we push different ways in the golf swing with the ground. We push sideways, we push forwards and back. We do all these different things. So let's say that you want to throw the ball and you squat down and you try to throw the ball as hard as you can. So the force plates would measure how hard you're pushing into the ground. And that would give some sense of, all things equal, if you knew the skill, the harder you push into the ground, it could have the potential to generate more force into the ball, right? It would travel energy through into the ball. So it measures that, but you can also see things, for example, let's say someone squats down with the ball and then they throw the ball while they're still in the squat and then they jump with their legs really hard. Well, the ball was already gone.
Mm.
The legs were too late to add energy in the system. So on the force plates, you'd see that person and you'd see them putting a ton of force into the ground, but it was too late to get it to the ball. So it'll show you the timing of when they did those forces. So for example, at what point in the swing. So if they're making their downswing, you can see when are their forces the highest. Are they doing that in a good time? So some people, they just need to learn to do things earlier. So maybe they push really well with the ground, but maybe they don't do it early enough to get it. So is that person that threw the ball before they came up. And so that's a person that they just need to learn to do it in a faster timing. But maybe you have another person that their timing's great and they do it really early, but their magnitude isn't there. They're not pushing hard enough. Then you have to figure out, is this because they're just not powerful enough as an athlete? Are they not strong enough? Or do they just need to exert more effort? And so by being able to not guess on that and actually answer that question, that's where you get the big changes.
That is really interesting, because I've noticed the exact same thing in people that are new to wakeboarding. When they cut in, ideally you want to pop kind of right as you leave the wake there. But it's really easy, especially if you're cutting aggressively, to kind of pop early or pop late, and then you don't really get that much air. You just kind of sail over. Maybe you get the distance, but it's not like, it doesn't look as cool. You don't look like Chris Styles or something.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense. Like I never thought of it like that, as somebody is putting force into the ground too early or too late to actually get that pop in the ball.
Yeah. It's fascinating. And you start to see a bunch of people I think that's where you get those quick changes sometimes. You'd say, hey, this person, you just need to push a little bit like this, and then they can kick up. So it doesn't always work that way, but it's really cool when it does.
Dude, we're going to clip some of these things. You sound so smart talking about this stuff because you explain it so simply, and you like going to
simple brain. That's all I know.
No. I think making a complex thing simple requires a lot more intelligence than making a complex thing more complicated.
I should hang out with you more. Make me feel good,
Yeah, there you go. Well, that's one of the things that I really like about talking to you, is like I can always understand what you're saying, and I can tell you're taking these big concepts and making them, understandable for my fourth grade mind. So it works well. It's perfect. Awesome. Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. For anybody that wants to increase their swing speed, Jeremy's the man. Hit him up.